I need more water.
Or not.
You wanna knock those fans off? You can't hear. I'd knock them. I think you should.
Mr. Wary, are we set?
Here? No.
We can hear. Can you hear us back there? Excellent, because we have all the fans on. All right, we set? Everything looks good over there? Pat, everything looks good over there? All right, pursuant to section 5, chapter 231, Public Law 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2023 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2022, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Ms. Adams. Sprite.
Here.
DeLuca.
Here.
Sangle.
Here.
Mayor Davis.
Here.
Whereas chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas section 7A provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting. And whereas desire of the governing body to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner. Now therefore be resolved, the Township Committee, the Township of Maplewood does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in deliberations of the governing body by the public, except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Adams, Ms. Croy,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca.
Yes.
Ms. Engel.
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to kick off our meeting this evening, our first meeting back in person officially with full hybrid capacity, fingers crossed. Out there can hear us, who's joining us from home. We're going to kick things off with, we're very excited about this and we're glad to see a lot of support for it. The appointment of Sergeant Lindsay and Lisa Stoke. Where is she? She's right there. We're really excited about that. Come on. Yeah, give it up. I didn't know that your middle name's Ann Lisa. Lindsay Ann. I'm going to have to use that. You may not like it. All right. Okay. We then will segue into boards and committees. We have 3 new members joining the Community Board on Police tonight. Excited about that. Then we'll have our first of 2 public comment sessions. The first session is always for agenda items only. That will bring us to the Board of Health meeting. Our health officer, Candace Davenport, is somewhere here with us. There you are, down there. And then we have a special presentation of our 2023 budget amended. We'll be presenting it tonight. And that will take us into our ordinances. We have several ordinances on final passage this evening. And then reports. from administration, reports from elected officials. The order tonight that we will follow from the governing body is the following: Committee Member Adams, followed by Committee Member DeLuca, followed by Committee Member Kripe, followed by Deputy Mayor Engel. I always go last as the mayor. We have 4 discussion items, and that will take us to our consent agenda. If you looked at our consent agenda tonight, previously published, as I mentioned in my opening statement, you might be wondering and scratching your head, why are there all of these multiple resolutions about the same pocket license, liquor cabinet license? Our township clerk, who handles that, will explain shortly. And then you might notice a few resolutions that pertain to awarding contracts for infrastructure improvements in all kinds of areas, continued road work, flood mitigation, sewer, and so on and so forth. Again, our renewed commitment to improving the township's infrastructure. That's what we're doing with tax dollars. And additional general traffic engineering support services as well for the remainder of the year. Then we will have our second public comment period for any subject matter, and then we will adjourn and meet again on September 19th. All right, so with that, we're going to get started. I'm going to turn it over to our township clerk, resolution number 260-23, Ms. Fritzen.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Want to be read in full? Resolution number 260-23. Resolution appointing new police sergeant on the Maplewood Police Department, Lindsay Ann Lisa Stolk. Whereas a vacancy has occurred for the position of sergeant of the Maplewood Police Department, and whereas Lindsay Ann Lisa Stolk has long served the Maplewood Police Department in many capacities, and whereas Lindsay Ann Lisa Stolk possesses all the necessary qualifications to assume the duties of sergeant of the Maplewood Police Department, now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee, Township of Maplewood, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that effective September 1st, 2023, Lindsay Ann Lisa Stolk be and hereby is appointed as sergeant of the Maplewood Police Department.
Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. I move the adoption of resolution number 260-23. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Kripe?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Sangl?
Yes.
Mayor Daffus?
Yes, and we're going to hold on the applause and all that good stuff and pictures until we have the oath of office administered.
Oh, I was ready to clap.
And then we're going to clap and celebrate and take pictures. Yeah. Would you like to say a few words? I know you do. Come on, we got to do better.
Gotta press the button.
Hang on, we can't hear
Nope.
anything.
So light's not on. There it is. Try it again. Good.
Yep.
Yes.
I want to thank everyone for coming out today. I want to thank not only the mayor, but the township committee, administration staff that I've been so blessed to work under for the past 5 years in close capacity, 9 years total. I want to thank my mother and father. I was probably the most challenging out of all three of your children. So it's kind of really back in now. I want to thank my husband, Nick, as most of you know, is a detective here. He's been a guiding light as a coworker, and he has really been unwavering as far as being a partner in this life that we all have to navigate crazily. And I want to thank my son as well, who, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here right now. Quick little thing, his first day of kindergarten was my swearing in date to get hired in Maplewood, and today is my swearing in date as a sergeant, and he is starting high school today. So a little weirdness. I also,
Yeah.
buddy. I can't forget my in-laws who've also been amazing guiding lights in my life. My brother, and my sister-in-law are here, and all of my Maplewood friends, coworkers that have become my family. I want to thank you guys again, and I look forward to be a sergeant in this town and serve you guys in this capacity. Thank you.
Congratulations.
This is what we do.
Congratulations. I have a few personal remarks I want to make about this appointment tonight. Sergeant, it feels so good to call you that. I am so proud of you. You started with us a little bit after I started on the township committee. And I remember running into you in town at different crossing guard duty assignments. And I remember saying to you at some point, Lindsay, you got to reach higher because you're so much more capable. I saw it in you. I felt it from you. You just needed to believe it yourself. And you finally did. You rose to the occasion. And I want to thank you for your service. I want to thank all of our police officers, men and women, for their incredible service to our incredible town. And you're just another shining example of Maplewood's finest. Congratulations and continued success going forward. Thank you. So we're going to move on. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, or you may want to go out and party. I'm sure there's a party somewhere. All right, we'll give it a couple minutes for folks to exit.
I don't know where it goes.
Bobby.
Yes, it goes to you. It goes over there and for public. Works.
Ah, there's our online presence.
Yes. Yes, we have our new community board on police members ready to go. Okay, so we're going to carry on with our meeting. And now we are appointing 3 new members onto the community board on police. All right. Mr. Jean is with us in person. So no offense to those of you who are not with us in person. We're going to start with Mr. Jean, Dr. Ronald Jean. Mr. Jean, welcome. Please introduce yourself to the community. Tell us a little bit about who you are and why you're interested in serving the town in this capacity as a volunteer on the community board on police.
Great, thank you. My name is Dr. Ronald Jean. I am about 9-year resident of Maplewood Township. I grew up in the area. I grew up in Essex County, so I'm very familiar long-term with Maplewood and the community. And I'm a father of 3 actually, 2 twins and an adult in college. And my wife, she's watching right now. Again, my goal, and I wrote a little something so I can defer to this. Let me first start by saying thank you, Mayor DeLuca. I'm sorry, Mayor Daffis,
Okay.
Mr. DeLuca, and fellow committee members who are serving on this board. Again, being appointed to this board is a great honor, and it's truly humbling to be seen fit to serve in this capacity. It's my distinct honor. I love this community. And again, I want to be able to serve this community by offering my skill sets and my diverse background and my knowledge to be able to continually improve the relations between police officers in this community. I think it's important to have fair representation, and I believe my perspective adds something new to helping this community and the police officers and the Maplewood police force to be a model for consistent improvement and continual growth. So I'm looking forward to serving in that capacity and being a member and being an example of civic duty. So thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And before we vote officially on the appointments, we're going to do them all in one block, right? It's the same board and committee. We're going to hear from the other 2 members. Thank you. So we have also with us online, I believe, Ms. Kensia Mele, Dr. Kensia Mele.
Doctor.
Yes, hello everybody. I hope you can see and hear me well. So yes, my name is Dr.
Need a
Kensia
little.
Malay.
Hold on just a
Okay.
second, Dr. Mele.
Sure.
A little higher. It's the feed.
Okay, let me try to change my source. Is this better?
Al, thank you.
Much better. Excellent.
Proceed.
Okay. All right.
Uh-oh,
So
and then it went away.
no.
Yes, we can hear you
Okay.
now. Please proceed.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. So I'm originally from sunny South Florida, so my background kind of brings in the sun and the sunshine. I have been in higher education for over 10 years, and I actually work with the campus police at my current job, which is at William Patterson University, where I help them, and I joined the hiring committee. But in addition to that, I help train and do workshops throughout campus So I'm just really excited about this opportunity so that I'm able to do the same thing and serve my community. I recently moved to Maplewood, where I just purchased a house in January. So I'm really excited to jump right in and really serve the community in this capacity where I can challenge and put my hands in and help build a community that is receptive of all people of all kind of alluding to what Dr. Jean just talked about. And so I'm really excited about this opportunity. So thank you very much.
We're excited to have you and congratulations on buying a home here in Maplewood. Welcome. Thank you. And last but not least, we have a new youth member appointee tonight on the Community Board on Police. Henry, tell us
Hey.
a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in doing this.
Hey, my name's Henry. I'm a rising senior at Columbia, of mixed race. My mom's Black and Korean and my dad's white, relatives from Lithuania and Germany. I actually wrestle for Columbia. I'm a vice president of the CHS Fishing Club. And I'm very excited to be part of this committee, as well as share thoughts about topics relating to the Community Board on Police, as the youth representative and also representative for the younger generation in our high school and the middle schools. I'm looking forward to help forge better relationships between the community and police, and also reinforce and create better policies within the police department.
Thank you, Henry. That's terrific.
Cool.
I'm going to invite my fellow Community Board on Police Liaison Committee member DeLuca to move the adoption of our new the appointment of our new members.
I move the adoption of the three individuals, Henry Fries, and Kinsia Millie, and Dr. Ronald Jane.
Jean. We've mispronounced everyone's name tonight.
John,
I
sorry.
said Jean, it's Jean. And Henry, we mispronounced your name too. It's all good though. I'll second the motion.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Scripe?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes,
Zangle?
Yes. Yes.
Mayor Daffis?
Yes, congratulations to all three of you. Thank you. And your first meeting is tomorrow night.
Yes.
Get ready.
7:30, be there.
See you tomorrow.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This brings us to our first public comment period for agenda items only. I'm going to turn it over to our administrator, Mr. Wary, to administer the public comment.
it's not on.
If any,
Oh, he stopped it. It's working.
Pass that over.
Tapped it. It worked for like a second.
I think we can afford two mics.
they are on order. If any member of the public is interested in speaking in public portion, please raise your hand and we will move you over to panelists so you can speak.
We have someone here too who's interested. Raise their hand.
Since we're sharing a mic, if we can do Zoom first and then the panelists or the attendees in the room. All right. We have two. Okay, we have Vincent Lavera. You have 3 minutes to speak in public comment.
Hello, hi, thank you, I appreciate that. Just wanted to, I've lived in Maplewood since about 2020, and have had a great experience here. The only thing that's put a damper on that experience over the last few years is the issue that I'm seeing in Maple Crest Park. I live at the entrance to Maple Crest Park on Essex Road, and I've seen just a steady increase in homelessness in the park. That includes things like public urination and other things that I wouldn't even bring up here. But it's gotten worse. It's getting worse. We see it every day. My 2-year-old daughter spotted something that she shouldn't have spotted the other day. My nanny saw something today, smelled something today that she, that was pretty disturbing. So it's just, I want to believe that things that's being looked at and taken care and being worked on. It's become a big problem. I did go to file a citizen report today at the Maplewood Police Department. And something that was brought up today was the idea of the food shed on Springfield, bringing in a lot of homeless to the area, and they're coming to Maple Crest Park, and that's where a lot of this is happening. So I don't see a lot of police presence in the park, which is fine, but I do think this is a rising issue. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up.
Thank you for your comment.
Mr. Andrews will be joining for public comment. Mr. Andrews, please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, good evening. My name is William Andrews. I am a Lexington Avenue resident. And I just want to make a public comment on what the last speaker just spoke about. But the only thing is, it's not in Maple Crest Park. It's in the Hart Park, right off of Burnett Avenue, which is a park. I live 1 block away. And, it's very, very disturbing, when you go into the park, you're seeing things on the ground that you shouldn't see. And these are things obviously that I think are, taking place in the evening. One of the things I would like to propose is that, we can hopefully have Maplewood Police at night, maybe, once every hour on their night tours, go through the park and, just make sure that there's no one hanging out on the clock and, just doing things that they shouldn't do. Again, it's very, very disturbing. And, I'm sure just over time, if this is something that we don't, grab by the horns, this is just it's going to get out of control, and it's only going to get progressively worse. So, and I think some of my other neighbors, will probably be speaking on this issue also this evening, just to, let you know the area of concern. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Thank you for joining us tonight.
If any additional members of the public on Zoom would like to speak in public portion, please raise your hand.
And we have members of the public here. Yes, please proceed.
Good evening, everyone. I'm also in the Hilton area of Maplewood, and we have been
Can
complaining.
you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Amy, and we have been complaining about this issue with DeHart Park for over a year now. As a matter of fact, last year I collected signatures. So at this point, I have about 25 signatures of residents in the area that are very concerned about what goes on in DeHart Park. To begin with, DeHart Park is the only park in Maplewood in which the courts and the fields are open until 10 p.m. Every other park, they open at 8 and they close at sunset, except for DeHart. So we are proposing that the same thing be done in DeHart, that courts and fields be closed at sunset. And of course, we understand that there is a soccer field, and sometimes, they have soccer games, and that's all, organized, which is fantastic. We love that. But there should be people who obtain permits, and, that will trigger like the lights going on so that it's safe for everyone. So, we're not saying that we don't want anybody there at all, but we're just saying that it has become a danger. We have observed different things in the park, like condoms. We have observed people getting high in the park, people yelling and screaming at all hours of the night. And of course, the neighbors are calling the police. And I have to say that the police doesn't come right away. Now, granted, we do not call an emergency number because we don't know. And we've always told the police, look, we don't know if they're horsing around or if somebody's getting hurt, but we need somebody to come down and check it out. And I can tell you personally, I've waited. I go around one of the blocks where I can see the park and I wait and wait and wait 10, 15, 20 minutes sometimes, and the police doesn't show up. And that is unacceptable. So something needs to be done about this park because it has created a lot of stress for the neighbors. Everybody that I've talked to has said, this was never this way. I have lived in Maplewood for 21 years, and I was living in the area even beyond that. And it was never like this. This was a very quiet neighborhood. Even before I purchased my home, I went and sat in my car on the street to see what the traffic was like, what the neighborhood was like. And it has never been like this. This has happened in the past, I would say about 4 years or so, that increasingly it's gotten worse. It got to the point that there's so much music being played in the park so loud that I can hear it a block and a half away. And they play certain music that is not appropriate. And the basketball courts are right next to the playground. And last year at one of the meetings, I read some of those lyrics and they're horrendous. I was insulted. I mean, I can't imagine what these poor parents are going through, that their kids have to listen to these things. So we're hoping that you'll at least at this moment in time consider closing the park at sunset like all the other parks in Maplewood, and to have police presence because it's just gotten out of control. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Amy. We appreciate you taking the time to address the committee and to express your concerns. We will definitely take that under consideration. Do you have that petition with you? Would you kindly hand it over to our administrator, Mr. Wary, right there?
Can I just provide it possibly at a later date because I would like to make a photocopy of it. This is
Of course, you could do it by email as well, whatever's easiest on you.
Okay, I'll get her email address. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who wish to address the Township Committee in this public comment portion? And since we're not doing agenda items as we should be doing, what the heck? Come on up.
That was,
Oh, about that, but the previous comments were not.
no.
Were not on the agenda.
My comments relate to, first, my name is Erin Scherzer. I live at 49 Oberlin Street, 4 houses from Springfield Avenue. My comments actually relate to a topic on the Board of Public Health agenda. I'm happy to, but I didn't see a space for public comment there. So I'm happy to give comments now, or I can wait, whatever you all think is best.
You can give comments now. That's fine. There is opportunity for public comment during that as well, but please proceed, Ms. Scherzer.
Perfect. I'd like everyone here and people who are listening at home to take a moment and think about a time that you were vulnerable, a time when you maybe lost your job, a time when your health was compromised, a time when your relationships, whether with your family in your home or your extended family or your friends, was compromised, a time when your mental health suffered. And as I talk today, I want you to keep that vulnerability in mind. I speak today on 2 areas of expertise. First, as the proud daughter of 2 working-class parents who put 5 children through school and worked 2 jobs each. And this week, the week that's back to school, was always the biggest struggle in our house because of the cost of new school clothes and school supplies, and you still have to put food on the table. I'm also here to speak as an active community volunteer who's worked with some of our most vulnerable members of our community, and also someone who's been on the forefront of helping, after the leadership of Vic DeLuca and Nancy Adams, the push to make Springfield Avenue better. I'm here to talk about the community refrigerator or fridge. We'll use the casual term fridge. I'm here to urge you to, as quickly as possible, move this refrigerator back to 24 hours. I want you to think back to that moment that I asked you to reflect on being vulnerable and how hard it is at that moment when you need to ask for help. It doesn't happen between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. It could be you put on a happy front in front of your children, and after they're tucked in bed, you go out and you figure out how you are going to thrive and survive. We live in the one most expensive areas in the country. And currently, almost 35% of our residents in Maplewood have incomes that either put them at the poverty level or put them, as someone told me one time, one meal away from being at the poverty level. One car bill, one extra electric bill makes them vulnerable. We need people, if they are hungry and need to feed their family and have fresh food. As someone who has high blood pressure, canned foods from food pantries is not enough. You need to have fresh food. It's a public health issue. I'm urging you to move to 24 hours. Now, as someone who lives 4 houses away from Springfield Avenue and has had to work with problems on Springfield Avenue, including people hanging out, garbage. I deal with the Burger King. Like, hello, there's been garbage ever since I put an offer in on my house. I think what we need to do is bring some level of organization and routine to the community fridge. We should follow the model that we have done so successfully in this town and establish a committee similar to our Green Committee, similar to our Rec Committee, similar to the Community Board on Police, that puts words into action, can develop an organized plan so we can have a volunteer schedule, that we can have systems for cleanup, that we can have check-ins, that we can do everything to make this fridge thrive throughout the day. This group could also be charged with pairing with other organizations, because one thing I've noticed as someone who donates to the fridge and is a frequent visitor on Springfield Avenue, because it's literally in my backyard, is that area of Springfield Avenue is now dead. We've abandoned our mission of making it the wellness corridor. If we can have gyms there and a vitamin shop and all these other things, part of wellness means also the wellness of our most vulnerable members of our community. Perhaps when we have the mobile health van, to give shots and, blood pressure checks, that parking lot should be used. Maybe we should consider putting up pop-up tents. So those who may have narcotic issues at 6 a.m, which other people have referred to when they see a Maplewood Park, maybe they can go to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting in a closed, you bring the little tent sides down and you create access. Maybe Soma Shares can do a 10 p.m, come by and get your back to school clothes there. And we can just do a shared thing. There are so many things we can do to reactivate that corner and bring it back to its core mission. I want to end, because I probably went over the 3 minutes. I appreciate you not bringing out the hook to drag me off here, is that in Maplewood, we do hard things incredibly well. When our neighbors and our residents and people who may be in this room right now lost their jobs after major recessions and during the pandemic, we rallied behind them and we found ways to get them fed. There's a lot of conversations about this fridge that these people don't live here. Guess what? They live here. And even if they don't live here, the whole point of Springfield Avenue and the whole mission behind the Springfield Avenue partnership is not to exclude people who live in other communities. There are thriving businesses on Springfield Avenue from people all around, and our wellness and helping our most vulnerable individuals, that should be part of that mission too. We can do hard things. I know we can do hard things, and I stand with the township to make this a possibility. But please, as the person to this day who has many means, but still squeezes out every little bit of the toothpaste container, as I did this morning, I reflect on what my parents instilled in me at a very young age. You can't take your blessings for granted. We have blessings and we need to help those who don't have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scherzer, for your compassionate and intelligent remarks, as you always do. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? Please come forward. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Bonnie Schwab. I am a resident of Maplewood, 254 Hilton Avenue. I've come to speak in support of the fridge. to give some observations and insights as somebody who lives literally right around the corner. If I stick my head out my back window and crane my head a little bit, I can actually see it. I routinely pass the fridge several times a day in my car and on foot when I'm walking my dog. And what has been described as the activity that's been going on around the fridge that was, I saw some very lurid descriptions over the summer in the on social media in the Community Fridge Facebook group, which was actually set up to talk about ways to support the fridge. It was very soundly bashed in that group and in other local groups on social media. So that really raised my consciousness about it, and I wanted to routinely keep an eye on it. And so I've been doing that since the beginning of July, and I've not seen the conditions that have been complained about. My neighbors, I think, along Indiana Street have been very strident in their criticism. It seems like it's 2 or 3 people. And they've alleged fighting, menacing of little children, trash strewn about, rodents, and various acts of public indecency. I've gone there dozens and dozens of times since I've read this, and I have not observed that. I've observed people standing around waiting for food to be distributed to the fridge. Some of them are neighbors from my neighborhood that I know. I have seen lots and lots of folks dropping off food. I've seen people approach them as they put the food in the refrigerator. There is a big rush to get the food. However, I haven't seen the really detrimental things that I've seen described on social media. I've lived in Maplewood for nearly 25 years, and there's been visible homelessness on and off around Springfield Avenue during that whole time. It ebbs and flows in conjunction with economic conditions. We know all too well that it's an intractable social problem that comes with living adjacent to urban centers. I feel that the fridge is being unfairly scapegoated as a cause of visible homelessness and as an attractive nuisance. I can tell you that unhoused people were around Springfield Avenue before the fridge, and if you close it tomorrow for good, they will still be there. And a lot of people in the area, some of my neighbors, I'm sure lots of other people from Maplewood will be detrimentally affected by the closure. They're already being affected by the shortened hours. Neighbors I mentioned have a tendency to go to the fridge very early in the morning. I think for them, it's a visibility problem. They want the anonymity that comes with accessing it in the early morning hours. And I can tell you for sure that this family is depending on the fridge to get by. So I think that's one direct effect that I can cite for the restricted hours that have been in effect. I would advocate, as Ms. Scherzer did, to put some more organization around the fridge, perhaps, form a committee like other endeavors in town have around them. You'd certainly get a robust crop of volunteers because there's a lot of support for the fridge. There's a lot of good people in town. The thing that I've always loved about Maplewood is it's a town with a tremendous heart. It's so generous. I've seen it firsthand in my years here. And I would really hate to see the fridge, the hours be curtailed, or its very existence be curtailed just because people don't like looking at poor people. That is the issue here. There are poor people hanging around the fridge and it bothers people. And I'd like to think that we're the kind of town that doesn't turn away from that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments and insight. Any other members of the public? Yes, sir, please. To the mic, introduce yourself.
Good evening. My name's Paul Serrano, and I live in Hilton. I'm married to her, actually. So just to piggyback on some of what Amy said earlier. Yeah, the Hart Park is nothing like it was before the basketball courts were installed. And again, it's neither here nor there, but there is a lot more activity and noise in the park. I mean, we're living in the neighborhood over 20 years. And before the courts went in, I probably called Maplewood PD. I could count on one hand the number of times I had to call because there was this disturbance in the park. 20 years. Since the courts have gone in, I've probably called about 40 times because of kids getting high, people parking their cars on the sidewalk, and the noise. I used to be able to sit in my backyard with a drink on the weekend and relax. Those days are over. The noise just comes over the houses that border the park. It's like they're basically next door. You know, it's fine. It is what it is. Kids will be kids. I did the same crap when I was 20 years old. But the thing that we would really appreciate is if at sundown, they would just leave. The noise, I mean, just last week, I had to call Maplewood PD 2 times. One, because the kids are getting high right on the Lexington Avenue, right on the parking lot. I went up to them and said, guys, I used to get high way back in the day. You don't do this in public. They're kids literally 20 feet away from you. Okay, we're sorry. I walked away. They just kept on doing it. And that was the next day was when the guy was parked on the sidewalk. It's frustrating because again, we're there 20 years. This is, you know, something we've had to get used to. But what we would like at the very least is at sundown, you know, the noise stops, people go home. I mean, I'm talking Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night. These kids are still out there at 8, 9 o'clock at night playing. And again, they got a lot of energy. They got to have something to do. That's fine. But it's where we live. The one thing I remember, I don't know if Amy remembers, it may have been last summer, freaking flash mob right on the corner of our house, 40, 50 kids screaming their heads off at 10 o'clock at night. Again, police have to come break it up. It's not something I'm used to, and I'm a 20-year resident. And, you know, all we would like is that it's the same rule townwide. Sun goes down, the park's closed, that there's clear signage explaining this to the kids. I don't want to have to keep bothering the cops to come and break the stuff up, but it's gotten to a point where it's more than a bit frustrating. And I know I speak for a lot of the guys. We just had a block party 2 weeks ago. That's all everybody was talking about, how fed up they are with this stuff. Like I said, before the park was there, you could pretty much, you know, leave your house unlocked, car unlocked in the drive. You never worried about it. It's not the same anymore. And basically all we're asking again, sundown, just the park, there's an understanding that the park is basically closed. That's really all there is to it. So I know you guys are busy, so I'll stop.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Any other members of the public with us here in person? Okay, so
I'm sorry, Mayor. Can I ask Bonnie Schwab to come on back up? And you made a request to me about Ovarian Cancer Month. Can you make it to the entire group here? Better comes from you.
Thank you, Mr. DeLuca. Yeah, I made an informal request of you a couple of weeks ago to see if September is Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. And I was wondering if the committee would entertain issuing a proclamation for Ovarian Cancer Month at the next Township Committee meeting. I have some draft language that I can work with you on. It is a very I guess, neglected, one of the neglected cancers. It's lethal, it's deadly. I lost my friend and Maplewoodian neighbor a year and a half ago. And I had thought that I would continue her mission of raising awareness. So I had researched the various ways, and proclamations by town governments seem to be a way that that's done. So I had met Vic at a local function and asked if it was possible. So I'd be happy to put some language together for the next meeting.
Thank you. I think we all would support that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Excellent.
That's easy.
Excellent.
You
Thank
can
you so
send it to Liz and she'll put it together.
Okay, I will be in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bonnie.
Thank you. Seeing that there's no other members of the public, we're going to close public comment. This public comment portion of the meeting, I want to address some of the things that were raised for the public. We're going to be discussing how late Zahar Park stays open in a little bit during our discussion portion of our agenda, but I want to address the remarks and the insight relating to the fridge and to homelessness in Maplewood. As Ms. Schwab indicated, they are not related per se, meaning that the fridge is not causing homelessness. We have always had houseless folks in Maplewood. We certainly have a lot more now. We went from about a couple folks here and there, 3 to 5, to about a dozen that we know of. And there are others that are not as easily identifiable. And they were out there before the fridge. So the fridge is not causing homelessness. The affordability crisis in New Jersey is causing homelessness. The lack of proper social services support is causing homelessness. And there's a whole other slew of factors that lead to homelessness. As someone who experienced housing instability earlier in my life, as Ms. Scherzer mentioned, she shared some intimate information about how she grew up. I grew up the son of immigrants who were poor and struggling, and we didn't have money, and we couldn't pay the rent. And I definitely experienced what it's like not to have food and what it's not like not to have shelter. That fear, that embarrassment. People who are experiencing homelessness in Maplewood are Maplewoodians. And there are also other folks who have migrated here because homelessness doesn't have boundaries. This is why I'm passionate about this issue and why I work in homelessness prevention and support for the state of New Jersey, wearing my other hat professionally. And I have shared the resources that I know about the programs, the providers who are experienced in homelessness prevention and support with our administrator and with our health department director, Candace Davenport. And I've asked them to reach out to them, to the providers, and to see how we can collaborate with them in a direct and intimate manner, provide direct support for those experiencing homelessness in Maplewood. Because all of the resources that are available are county-based. Okay, so the providers receive money from the state and the federal government to support the county, not any specific municipality. So what we want to do here, what I think we should do here, what we will be discussing in the proper subcommittee later this month, and we'll be discussing in open next month, is a direct engagement with a provider that would provide us a reliable and sustainable direct Maplewood support. Homelessness is very complicated. The solution is not a voucher to a hotel for a week or two. The solution is case management. And those with experience in this particular area are the ones who should be doing it. Yes, we have very competent and compassionate social workers on our team, and they can do only so much. They can interact with folks experiencing housing insecurity. They can connect them to the county. They can direct them to call 211. They can direct them to the substance abuse treatment center. But they can't do the case management. They're not equipped to do that. And we don't have shelters in Maplewood. So these folks go to the county, and guess what the overburdened county does? Says, I'm sorry, we can't help you. Besides, if you've been to a housing shelter in Essex County, trust me, you don't want to stay there overnight. It's dangerous. So we need to do something about this. We need to do it in a dignified manner, because the situation is only going to increase because of the economic circumstances, as Ms. Schwab noted. So I really ask our health officer and our administrator to take action here. This is an emergency. This is an emergency. Now, back to the fridge. As the person who championed the fridge, I can assure the public that we're not closing it down. We're definitely in a transition period to figure out, as many here have remarked, how to do it better. It needs more organization. We need to work with the community advocates, the friends of the fridge, and perhaps create a committee for better support and organization around the fridge. And I do believe eventually we'll return to 24-hour access. But to help those who need access to the fridge, we need to ensure that it is safe, that it is reliable, so that there is food that you need to go there and get food from it, and that it is in the long term sustainable. And that's what we're looking to do. Already, we've partnered up with a nonprofit out of Newark that runs 5 other community fridges around Essex. They know what they're doing, and they've started helping us with distribution schedules, with donation schedules, and providing that much needed organizational support. We know that we have to do more. And as others have done, we are a caring, empathic community in Maplewood. And it's too bad that the few voices, and they are just but a few, speaking out against these measures are getting a lot of attention, because the truth is that the majority of the community supports this, and we need to invest in more of it, and we need to work together to make it better. So those are my comments to the remarks and questions during the first public comment portion. All right, so we're going to move over to the Board of Health, right? Perfect segue, and I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Mayor Engel, who is the chair of the Board of Health. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, PL 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2023 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2022, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Ms. Adams. Here. Ms. Bright.
Here.
Mayor Daffis.
Here.
Mr. DeLuca.
Here.
Ms. Engel.
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7 provides that the Board of Health has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting. And whereas desire the Maplewood Board of Health to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner. Now therefore be resolved by the Maplewood Board of Health, Township of Maplewood, that it does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in a formal agenda, active participation in deliberations of the Board of Health by the public, except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the Board of Health at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Bright?
Yes.
Mayor Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. Engel?
Yes. First on our agenda is the approval of meeting minutes from August 1st. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Bright?
Yes.
Mayor Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. Engel?
And I abstain since I missed that meeting. Great. Now I will turn it over to Ms. Davenport.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. We have our presentation here for you to follow. Next slide, please. One of the things we want to highlight is the Mayor's Wellness Campaign, Walk with the Mayor and the Township Committee. We'd like to tell the public to please join them to walk on September 16th at Borden Park at 10 a.m. Also upcoming would be the October 1st walk with our Township Committee at Maple Crest Park at 10 a.m. One of the things that's in the master plan is an increase in communication with our Township Committee and our leadership. So this would be a great opportunity to speak with them, but also to stay healthy as well and enjoy the great weather. Next slide, please. Speaking of upcoming events, we have our community health fair coming up on Saturday, September 30th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Maple Crest Park. We hope that you'll join us for free health screenings, free food, DJ, and activities, as well as flu and COVID vaccines, and it is open to all. As you can see, we have a lot of partners in our community who are participating, and we really think it'll be a great event. Really want to highlight all of our health partners in our community and get Maplewood healthy for the new school year. Next slide, please. I just want to bring the Township Committee and Board of Health's attention to the grant funding that we have received from the State Health Department, as well as the New Jersey Association for City and County Health Officials. These are federal grants which have been extended through to June 2024. So there are two resolutions on our agenda for this evening. And just want to bring your attention that we've received $406,046 for year 4 of the Strengthening Local Public Health Capacity Grant. That's the first one above there. And then the second one, we received over $279,000 to cover the timeframe from October 2022 to June 2024. Next slide, please. Hooray, we are on our way to Sustainable Jersey Health Gold. Just want to thank our members of the Sustainable Jersey Health Gold Committee who are township residents. Just want to bring your attention to the priority areas that they highlighted. One was safety, pedestrian and walkability safety in particular, township communication, food insecurity, and environmental health issues such as climate change and livability. Housing and availability and affordability was also another concern of the township of the Sustainable Jersey Health Gold Committee. However, those 4 with the bullets at the top have actual Sustainable Jersey Health Gold programs and goals and action items. So those are highlighted in the report that is provided to you. What we still need, though, is just the information on the planning board resolution for the health and all policies training, and upload the health plan worksheets and a letter from the mayor to extend the health and all policies resolutions, which we have passed over 2 years ago, so it doesn't really count, so we have to extend that. Other than that, hopefully by November at the League of Municipalities, Maplewood will be one of those who has received Sustainable Jersey Health Gold. Next slide, please. For our annual animal control update, thank you very much. For the month of August, we've had a total of 13 calls. Services are again provided by the Township of Bloomfield Animal Control. And they broke it down here for domestic, wildlife, total bite investigations, and after hours calls. Next slide. Environmental health, next slide. We've had about 17 restaurant inspections, a lot more mobile food trucks because of all of our township events. And we are probably going to be gearing up to do some more of those restaurant inspections. And our complaints have been addressed with notices of violations or summonses if they haven't been rectified. Next slide. Moving on to our nursing report for communicable and infectious diseases. Our nursing department has reported investigating 10 reportable communicable diseases, 5 of them foodborne illnesses. So this is common that we would see this during the summer with foodborne illnesses, 3 hepatitis B cases, and 2 tick-borne illnesses. So again, these are public health issues that we are dealing with and investigating and providing them with resources or medical care if needed. Next slide. Just want to bring the attention to the Essex County Mobile Health Clinic schedule for the month of September for COVID as well as flu. And some good news to provide to the township. Essex County will be at the September 30th Health Fair. They will be providing COVID and flu vaccine for our residents. And they have just been approved by the State Health Department as a provider for childhood vaccinations and adult vaccinations for those who have no insurance or are underinsured. So they will be providing more vaccination services in the future through their mobile health clinic, and may perhaps even be able to provide those vaccinations for children and adults at the September 30th Health Fair. So this is very good news. Next slide, please.
I know, I was doing it so well.
This is just an update for our monthly update for COVID-19. We are in low across the state. Next slide, please. And moving on to services, social services and mental health. Just want to bring a highlight to Easy Ride. There are discounts for those who qualify, seniors in particular. They can get up to 16 rides. This is increased and doubled in size from 8 rides to 16 rides each month for any purpose. And additionally, for those who are on dialysis, they can receive 16 additional rides per month. As the COVID pandemic is decreasing, some of the social services that we're seeing in the community, including our transportation services, are being reduced. So I just want to bring a highlight to this because for some of our seniors and those who are disabled in our community, they are struggling to find transportation. So just want to bring that to their attention. But also Essex County Special Transportation System is another service that can be provided. All of these updates can be found on the SOMA 2 Towns for All Ages website. Next slide, please. It is the fall, so just want to remind everyone to go to Get Covered NJ for signing up for health insurance. That's getcovered.nj.gov. If you don't have insurance, this is the best time to do it. Next slide. For those who are on Medicare, open enrollment begins October 15th and goes through December 7th. Next slide. Finally, for those who are on New Jersey Family Care, please look for your renewal packet, which should be coming in the mail, and then use that to reapply for your annual health insurance. If you don't apply that way, they might disenroll you. So be sure to look at your mail to receive that packet. Finally, just to highlight that the county provides monthly community grocery giveaways. The next upcoming date from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. will be September 21st. Information is on our website, but you can also call 973-639-2100. It's on our PowerPoint also, but it got cut off here. So I just want to repeat that again. It's 973-639-2100 for more information on this community grocery giveaway, which is open to all Essex County residents. And that is the end of my slides. Happy to answer any questions from the Township Committee and public. Thank you.
I have a quick question. In regards to the COVID vaccinations, will we know whether or not the new variant, the new vaccine is the one that's going to be distributed at the health fair?
Yeah, I believe so. So we're all waiting for that to be distributed by the end of this month. So I can confirm that with the county, but that is the one that they should be giving out now since the other one, that formulation is no longer valid.
All right. And lastly, for the ride share, are all the vehicles able to accommodate mobility devices?
What devices, ma'am?
Mobility devices. So
Mobility
maybe
devices.
Wheelchair, walker.
I think they are.
Yes, I believe so. For Easy Ride, I believe they use Lyft or Uber services. So I can check on that, but the Essex County Special Transportation System does have various buses that they can use for disabilities. But I can check on that one as well.
All right, thank you. Those are my only two questions.
Any questions from any of my other colleagues? Now we'll open it up to questions from the public. Mr. Wary?
If any members of the public have a question on Zoom, please raise your hand and you'll be moved over to speak for 3 minutes. I see nobody.
Thank you. Anybody from the public who's in this room have any questions for our health officer? Okay, seeing none, our next scheduled meeting is Tuesday, October 3rd, and I move to adjourn our Board of Health.
Second.
Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Grate,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Ms. Engel.
Yes. Thank you. Back to you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Engel. And thank you, Health Officer Davenport. Okay, so we're going to move on. But before we get to the budget presentation, I see we have our CFO, Mr. Koloje, is ready to go. I neglected to honor a couple of folks that we lost recently in the community. I was going to do that at the top of the meeting, but with the promotion that we had and the joy in the room, I thought it appropriate to do so later in the meeting. So this is when we're going to do it. We want to honor the life, the memory of William Charlie Howard, known as Charlie to those who knew him, who worked for Public Works in Maplewood for 25 years. He retired in 1999. He was born in East Orange but lived in Maplewood for 45 years before moving to Somerset earlier this year. Charlie was predeceased by his wife, Cookie Howard, and he's survived by his stepson, Robert, stepdaughter, Dawn, grandchildren, Caitlin, Rebecca, Bradley, Eric, Olivia, and nephew, Ken. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the extended Howard family. May Charlie's memory be eternal and a blessing during this difficult period. Also, we want to remember someone that we got to know really well earlier this year, Mr. Joseph Harnett, who passed away unexpectedly a couple of weeks ago. Joe was our recruiter. He helped us get to our new administrator, Mr. Wary. He was a delightful person to work with. He worked throughout New Jersey in many different towns. He had many decades of experience in municipal government. And he most recently helped out our neighbor in Montclair as their township administrator for a little bit. We were advised and our love and prayers and thoughts to the Harnett family. So please join me in a moment of silence for Joe and for Charlie. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Koloje, welcome. How are you?
I am well, Mayor. How are you?
We are well. I understand we are introducing an amended budget.
Yes, we are. We are at the point where we finally can see a finish line. So
Our 23 budget, as we're about to start our 24 budget preparations. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to you for a presentation.
A never-ending cycle for 2 months, Mayor, for sure, or for 2 years rather. Tonight, we will have an amendment that was recommendations made by the state in order to approve. Once we send that approved resolution down to the state, they will give us permission to move forward with adopting our budget. We put together a PowerPoint presentation just to refresh everyone's memory because we started this process all the way back in January. I believe, there we go. So just briefly, and I think everyone.
Mr. Koloje, I'm just going to ask you to speak a little bit closer.
Like this.
To pick everything up because the audio, it bounces
It's a
around.
little fuzzy.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's hard to hear
I
folks at home and for us
I
here.
appreciate the the novices suggestion here. The first slide just shows us the basics of our township. We're roughly 4 square miles. We have a population just under 26,000. Our total valuation is roughly $3.9 billion. That obviously is going to change once we finish the reval. That number will move up. Currently, to meet our services, we have 212 full-time employees. We employ 207 part-time employees. And this year's budget is a balanced budget at $53,588,003.42. And that represents roughly a little less than a 1% increase over last year's spending plan. The next slide will show where our property taxes go. Roughly 28% are for municipal purposes, 15% goes to the county to support their efforts, and 57% goes to support our schools. The next slide will.
Oh, no. That slide, we got to hang on
Yeah.
for a little bit. All right. Can you walk us through that slide a little bit? Yes. Yeah. Because that tells the story of where the money goes right there.
It does tell the story of where the property taxes do go, no question. Essentially, the township, all municipalities serve as a collecting agency for the other governing entities, the county and the school district. The school district will strike their budget, send it to us. We are required to then go and collect whatever they need to support their budget. The county will do the same, send us what our portion is based on all the other towns of what we need to pay. They also include an open space tax at the county level. And then at the municipal level, we have 3 segments of taxes. One is to support our municipal budget and all the services we provide. The other is a bare minimum statutory requirement to support our public libraries. And then we also have an open space tax that we charge. Regardless of our collection, we are required to send the full amount of money to the county and the full amount of money to the school board. And it's the reason why we have a statutory requirement in our budget for something called RUT, or reserve for uncollected taxes. So no matter what, the school district will always get their money, the county will always get their money, and then we need to deal with any shortfall. Typically, we've been running at somewhere around 98 to 99% collection. So that does factor into the reason why we're forced to have tax sales. But the lion's share of property taxes are based on our school system. And everyone knows that a town lives and dies by its school system. So it would be
Indeed.
foolish of us to not support the school
So
system.
thank you. So what you see there essentially, for those of us following us out there are going to see this later, is that less than 30 cents of every dollar that we take in property taxes comes back to us, right?
Yes.
Okay, move on.
This next slide basically breaks down the impact of taxes.
Excuse me, Mr. Kaloji, is there any way we can move the box that's the image from YouTube a little higher so we're not missing that corner?
That's the view. You
Deputy Clerk of Law is like, I don't know where to
Slide that down.
I mean, if you could just slide it up if you see it blocking like 2 whole columns.
little line next, big line.
I think at home they're seeing the full thing,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Hopefully. So what we're looking at, the first box basically takes a look at our tax rate, 2022 compared to 2023. We were at 92.9 cents last year. We're at 96.1 cent this year. It was one of the mandates that we had received during our budget presentation and our workshops that we keep the increase as low as possible. This particular increase is going to go up 3.2 cents, which amounts to a 3.4% increase in the tax rate. The state has all municipalities take an average assessed value of every home. This way it makes it easier to compare South Orange to Maplewood, Maplewood to Milburn, et cetera, et cetera. And our average assessed home comes out to $501,500. It's not the actual price of what you buy a home for in Maplewood, but it's currently the assessed value of the property that it would be average. So our taxes last year amounted to $46.58 roughly. And this year it will go to $48.19. So all said and done, we're looking at about $160.50 increase annual to support our budget, which amounts to your mortgage going up by roughly $13.37. The boxes to the right basically break down what we're looking at. The first column is municipal, so we see that we're going up with an annual increase of $160. An annual increase for the statutory library of $20. Our open space tax is a flat penny that we charge every year based on the assessed value. The county's going up $30 for the year, another $5 for their open space. The school district is going up roughly $245 for the year. So all said and done, our residents will be facing a tax increase of $461 for the full year, which equates to your mortgage payment going up roughly $38.50 for the year.
Mr. Kaloje, do you know that almost $500 increase? Do you know what percentage increase that is total?
The percentage increase total.
I know our increase went up 3.4.
I did not calculate the school's increase or the county's increase. The
Yeah, 'cause
county
it's hundreds.
clearly is under the 2%. My guess is the school district is probably landing close to where we are at somewhere around 3.5%. If I had a calculator, I can tell you for sure. The next slide, because a budget is really just a tool in order to achieve goals that we establish for ourselves for the upcoming year. And so these were the budgetary goals that were established during the process. We sought to expand our health services by adding an additional part-time crisis intervention social worker to go with the full-time crisis intervention social worker that we added last year because the demand is that high. We're also adding a part-time community nurse to help us as we get through the last legs of a pandemic. Big was the environmental commitment that the Township Committee made. Last year, the decision was made to go to commingling in an effort or dual stream in an effort to encourage participation. This is the year that we have to pay for it. And then during our budget workshops, the Township Committee voted to increase the amount of money we're going to spend on planting trees townwide, not just in our parks. We also continue to invest heavily into our infrastructure, both through stormwater and sanitary sewer improvements and our customary road projects, which include repaving roads, creating ADA compliant intersections, reducing traffic calming projects in various locations that are hazardous to the people. And then the only other goal that we had set was based on Mr. Schuster's recommendation, and that was to improve employee retention from the past couple years. The next slide will show us events that happen to us that are beyond our control, and it challenges our ability to meet the goals that we have actually established. Our general liability insurance, our workers' compensation insurance went up by roughly $114,000. We're in the third year of paying off a $2 million note that we lent to ourselves for pandemic lost revenue. We are also now picking up the first payment of the county mandated revaluation. And during the budget inspection process with the state, because we had received money from FEMA and we had received insurance money, the state said, we're not going to allow you to continue to pay that off over the next 4 years. We want you to pay off the full amount of what we had to pay to get ourselves out of IDA in this year, which amounted to roughly $800,000. Our pension obligations went up by over $750,000. Our health benefit costs went up by nearly $1 million. And all that said and done, without anything of our making or doing, we had $2.7 million worth of money that we needed to make up in our budget. The next slide kind of takes a little bit of a deeper dive into the pension and the health benefits. You can see from these two lines that the top line is the benefit or the pensions rather. Since I joined Maplewood back in 2018, it has gone up $2.2 million as the state continues to struggle with trying to get their pension funds liquid again. For years, they purposely underfunded them, and now they're pressing on municipalities to help them get that caught up. The other issue is the health benefits, which is the bottom line. Administration is working on adjusting that or addressing that for the 2024 budget. So we should see some relief from the current $3.8 million that it is spiked at. We do not anticipate seeing any relief with the pension fund next year with the state. The other slide that we have available to us shows us our debt service payments. and the down payment for the capital projects that we look to do. We're required to put down 5% as a down payment for any money that we wish to borrow for infrastructure projects. The gold at the bottom of the bar graph shows us what our down payment is. And so it tells a story that starting in 2021, we have really ratcheted up our commitment to our infrastructure projects. I mean, a lot of our stuff is 100 years old, way past its useful life, and it's a necessity for us to be able to penny wise, dollar foolish, and invest in ourselves today. The top bar represents how much we have to pay back in terms of the money that we borrowed. You will see that in 2018 to 2019, there was a significant increase. That was based on us selling 2018 bonds that converted our temporary notes. In 2021, we were able to manage the increase because we had retired a bond in that particular year, and so it stayed relatively level. In 2022, we saw a restructuring of our debt with some refinanced bonds that we were able to do that helped us hold down the cost to roughly $7 million. This year, because we retired 2 bonds, we see a significant decrease. That significant decrease is basically what helped us with the $2.7 million worth of pressure that was no fault of our own. The reason it is in red is because in 2024, it is going to go back up to roughly $7 million of what it was the year before. And so we need to be prepared, knowing going into next year's budget, we will see an increase in the amount of money that we're going to need to use to pay back the $32 million worth of bonds that we sold earlier this year. The next slide basically shows us how our money is spent from an appropriation perspective. So we have our statutory expenditures, which we do not have control over. We have the utilities for insurance, the buildings and keeping the lights on, which we have little control over. The bulk of our budget is salary and wages because we are a service industry. And that really can only be addressed when we're having contract negotiations in order to kind of turn the Titanic away from an iceberg, which really leaves us with that little small piece of pie that's roughly 12% of other expenses. That's really what we only have control over. That's where you'll see money drop in for planting extra trees this year. A big chunk of that is also something that cannot be addressed or adjusted because a good example would be the recycling mandate, I suppose, where we're spending over $800,000 because we're required to. Next
Just on that, I'm sorry, on that slide, the salary and wages is strictly salary. It doesn't include benefits. The benefits is
Strictly salaries. That is strictly salaries. We will next year see that number get reduced because we are now going to be fully in our shared service with the South Essex Fire Department. And so what we'll wind up seeing is our salary and wages will reduce from the roughly 45% that we're sitting at to probably somewhere around 34%. But we will also see a corresponding increase in other expenses because South Essex Fire Department will bill us for the services that they're providing.
Yeah.
This gives us a breakdown of the first 2 items, which were the statutory and the utilities and insurance. You can see that debt service is the lion's share. Pension obligation is the largest. Health benefits is the 3rd largest. Deferred charges are decisions that we made on emergency expenditures that we now have to pay back because we've already spent the money. The reval is a good example of that. And then the RUT, or the reserve for uncollected taxes, is a mandatory function, part of our budget that needs to get put in because we guarantee that we will pay the school district and the county whatever they asked us to or billed us to pay. On the other side, you can see that sewage treatment is clearly the largest expenditure on that side. Bulk utilities, which covers street lights and traffic lights, is also a large portion of that. Our general insurance and our workers' compensation insurance is the 2nd largest contributor to those items that we don't have much control over. The next slide shows us how the salary and wages are broken down. We can see clearly that public safety and the police, fire, and the soon to be moved to other expenses, South Essex Fire Department and the DPW are the lion's share of the salaries that we pay. And as I mentioned earlier, we will see in the 2024 budget this getting reduced as the fire SEFD line gets pulled out of salary and wages and moved to other expenditures. This shows us the lion's share of what we spend on other expenses. Clearly, the DPW is our largest expense. And again, 850,000 of that $2.6 million that we're looking at goes to mandatory recycling programs.
By the way, you, on the previous slide, you missed that the township committee is just 0.1%. Not even a percent.
It's
I
not.
had even a
A tenth of a percent.
I had a problem squeezing it onto the slide. Yes, sir. This shows us how we pay for all of this. And basically 75% of our revenue comes from taxes. You can see that we have the mandatory library tax, we have the collection for delinquent taxes, and then we have the property taxes, which is the largest piece of the pie. All of that amounts to 75% of our revenue comes directly from taxes. The other items that we're taking a look at include the use of a fund balance, which is referred to as surplus, to help us meet our goals, state aid, special items, which include things like the cannabis transfer fee that is in that section. And then our miscellaneous revenues, which constitute parking permits, registration for recreation programs, health fees. The next slide gives us a little bit of a deeper dive. The bar that is in gray shows us where we were before the pandemic hit. And the bars following that afterwards show us how that in many cases, we are still struggling to get back to where we were before the pandemic crushed everybody, including us. So we can see that we have local revenues that are still underperforming. Thank you, Patrick. Local revenues that are still underperforming, state aid that's starting to go up, and we'll talk about that in a second. Construction code has been increasing over what happened right before the pandemic hit. Our shared services, which were going down, are now going to have a robust rebound as we continue to enter into programs with neighboring communities. And then last but not least are the special items, which would be underperforming if it wasn't for the cannabis fee, which is bringing in roughly $600,000 in revenue that didn't exist just 2 years ago. This quick slide shows us our problem with state aid. Probably about 2 decades ago, the state said it was going to be far more efficient for us to collect money from the utilities and send it to the municipalities. They didn't do that for cable TV. So we still get a check from Verizon and we still get a check from Comcast for whatever they're doing. That revenue has steadily gone down as people continue to cut the cord. But the state, when they decided that they were going to make this more efficient collection rate, also passed a law that said it will go up by the cost of living. The state has not abided by that cost of living. And so what we're looking at, the green is what they're supposed to send us. The blue is what they're actually sending us. And in this particular year, the 2023 budget, we're being underfunded just based on the energy receipts tax by 5.2 tax points. That's important to recognize because we're only going up by 3.2 tax points. If the state just honored what they put into place 20 years ago, we would actually be talking about a tax decrease.
I'm
But
glad you made that comparison, that we're going up 3.4, but we're at a loss of 5.2.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was the number that we got in energy that we're pledged to receive in energy tax receipts? It's more than 75,000 that it was in 2022, right?
it's more energy receipts tax, yes, is somewhere around $1.8 million.
No, that we are going to get. I know that's our shortfall.
Oh, so no, so the state, rather than address the program, and there was a discussion about that at the state level, that they were going to look to address the program and get everyone whole within the next 5 years. They instead created a new state aid that they've funneled into. And part of our budget process was when we were holding our work sessions, they sent out a local finance notice that said, we will not be giving you that money this year. And then in July, they sent out a local finance notice that said, we're going to give you that money and we're actually going to double it from what it was the year before. So last year we received, I think they called it the Municipal Tax Relief Act.
Yeah.
We received roughly $95,000. This year we received $190,000. That is actually one of the amendments that we have in our resolution this evening.
Thank you.
Nice.
If we move to the next slide, we can have a little better understanding of what we use as a revenue source called surplus. Surplus is actually coming from fund balance. Fund balance is the amount of money that we have in our various accounts, whether that be the capital account, the current fund, our grant funds. And so we're looking at two issues here. From a on the right-hand side, from a fund balance using as a revenue source, in 2018, we used pretty much all of our fund balance or most of our fund balance at a $3.3 million revenue source in order to balance the budget. The following year, the Township Committee made a commitment based on recommendations from the bond rating agencies, because we sold a bond in 2018, who said that best practices would be to try to utilize only 50% of whatever fund balance is available. And starting in 2019, that is exactly what we did, with the exception of 2022, where we used a little more in order to balance the budget in what was a rough year. We have moved back down to $1.7 million. That is below 50% of what we have in fund balance. It is in line with what the rating agency told us, that if we continue on this track and we get ourselves into more of an 8% to 12% fund balance, we can see an upgrade in our bond rating, and an upgrade in our bond rating will ultimately save us hundreds of thousands of dollars as we are able to get lower interest rates. On the other side, fund balance comes in two versions, restricted and unrestricted. These numbers wind up pressing upon and restricting our use of fund balance. These represent the emergency appropriations that we made over the course of the last few years and our efforts to pay that back based on whatever the special emergency was. So we can take a look and see that in the blue, that is a $2 million note that we lent to ourselves to address the revenue shortfall when the pandemic first hit. And we are in year 3 of paying back that $2 million. The orange represents IDA, which was a $1 million emergency appropriation. We were on schedule to pay that back at $200,000 a year for 5 years. But again, when the state reviewing our budget saw how much FEMA money we got in and how much insurance money got in, they said, no, we want you to pay off the whole thing and go unrestricted in the future years. The gray represents our revow. And so that will be 5 years. This is the first year of 5 years of paying that off. And the gold represents the payout that we did for the fire department now that they've fully moved over to the SCFD. And we were able to take that $750,000 and stretch that out over the course of 5 years instead of having to raise people's taxes a full $750,000 in 1 year. So that brings us to
just a question on this year's deferred charge. And you said it earlier, I think the Ida storm emergency, we're paying it all down this year? We're paying it all back this year?
Yes,
Yeah,
the state has,
The state required that, right?
it is in our resolution to amend the budget. The state came back and said, we'll approve your budget, but we need you to pay this back.
And that was about 500,000?
It was, no, Ida was $1 million. So it was a $200,000 payout over the course of 5 years. We made our initial payment last year of $200,000. We had initially budgeted $200,000 and the state said, nope, put in 600,000 and pay off the whole 800,000 this year.
We won't have that next year.
Correct. That will reduce our fund balance.
That's a plus, because you mentioned some negatives for next year.
No, this will be a plus.
Okay.
From a installment.
I want us to have good news and bad news.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm the Grim Reaper. I understand. The next slide will show us the tax levy and the tax rate history. It basically shows that at the very bottom on the right-hand side, open spaces remain flat because the ordinance calls for charging just 1 cent. We've seen the library go up. The library is charged to a third. They call it a third of a mil. And so it is whatever our assessed value is. A third of that is mandatory, needs to be put into the budget. We historically have always funded more than the minimum that is required to keep our 2 public libraries running. But you see that there is a slight increase over the years because the value of our properties have also been increasing, which leaves us with the rate at the very top, which is the municipal portion of our budget. That corresponds with the dark blue on the left, which is the tax levy. The tax levy is actually the more important of the two, even though I know we base what we collect from property taxes on the rate. When we finish this revow, we fully expect to see that we are going to go up in evaluation, and that will lead to a corresponding decrease in the rate because we're going to be looking to raise the same amount of money that's in the levy. The last time we did this back in 2016, when we had the revow, we were at 90.7 cents as a tax rate. After the revow came in, the tax rate was adjusted down to 73.7 cents. And that's what we see in terms of our chart going up to 75 cents, 79.8 cents, et cetera. So we will be dealing with that and the complexities with trying to explain to people that, yes, although the value of your property went up, your taxes aren't going up because the rate is going to go down.
But could you, and not tonight, could you take this municipal tax rate over the course of the years here, it was 6 years, and give us an actual tax payment for an average home so that we can see the real numbers that have gone over? And then if you can just match that against the inflation rate over that time. So we know how much actually went up, because this is all going to be very important when we talk about the revaluation, because people are going to say, my taxes doubled. And it would be useful to say, well, over the last 6 years, here's where you were. Here's an average house in Maplewood, what they were paying for municipal taxes, and here's what they're paying now. And here's the inflation, and here's what's been above that. So it's just helpful.
That we will produce that. We will produce that chart for you. Easy enough to do. So this last slide, basically, this is your CFO's best effort at trying to end on a positive note. We've got an honest budget this year. We faced some significant challenges. $2.7 million. That wasn't anything of our own. We still wanted to move forward with improving services and investing in ourselves with both trees and infrastructure. And so what we see here is an end of this year's budget of the over-reliance of one-time revenue. Last year, we relied heavily on the American Rescue Plan money to balance our budget. We have, of the $2.6 million we received, we have roughly $1.8 million left. We will be able to utilize that money for capital projects, either storm water sewers or sanitary sewers. And that means we don't have to borrow money. And that means we don't have to pay interest. So that is certainly a positive with this year's budget. It brings the use of our surplus to sustainable levels because we're following our policy that says we're going to use no more than 50% of what we have available. It is maintaining our services that our residents have come to expect. It is improving the level of services in some of our areas. We have also significantly expanded our shared services, which reduces costs for both us and the town that we enter it into with. And it also provides for greater efficiency amongst communities. Hopefully, we will continue to find other opportunities to continue to grow shared services. And then lastly, this budget, like I said, is an honest budget and it adheres to fiscally sound best practices, which we'll have the inventory coming up in the next month or so.
Thank you, Mr. Kaloje. I agree with you. This is a fair and honest budget. As we've said back in March, April. Mr. Wary, would you kindly put that on the website, on our landing page, so that people can go to it and consult as we prepare for the public hearing on the 19th, I think it is, right?
Yes.
And can we also share it with our local news media?
Yes.
And with the township committee, because I think what we did earlier today is we reshuffled some of the slides from the original share. And we want to make sure that everyone has the current version that was presented to the public. Are there questions from my colleagues about the presentation or about the budget? Anyone?
I have one question, and maybe Mr. Weary, you can answer this. We're now in September and we're adopting the budget. What are we doing differently this year to prepare for next year so that it's a little more timely?
So I expect that we'll start the next year's budget process right after we adopt this year's budget, right? So the CFO and I will start to look at this year's budget and this year's actual spend and what we know will be our statutory commitments for next year. And then also, you know, one of the biggest drivers in us being delayed in adopting our budget this year was completing required bank reconciliations and budget transfers or interfunds from last year. So we are already working with our auditor who will help us with, just like they did this year, but we're going to start the process now, right? We didn't bring our auditor in probably until June or July of this year to start that process and helping us out. But we're going to start that now so that the CFO and I have discussed it. We expect that come December 31st, we will have completed our bank reconciliations through at least November, and then, you know, we'll do December and January. We are also working on using more capabilities through Edmunds, which is our finance system. They have some programs to help us do those bank reconciliations and automate more of the process. And so we'll be rolling that out over the next few months as well. And the CFO and I will keep you updated on that progress, because what we want to be reporting to you is, as we near the end of the month, that we are caught up on that process.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah.
Wasn't there supposed to be a resolution tonight about that?
Well, there were two of them, wasn't?
About, oh, maybe it'll be on the 19th about having the auditor
Mhm.
step in to help. Okay. Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, looking forward to adoption on the 19th. Mr. Kolodziej, thank you.
Mayor, I do believe that the agenda
do
says
the-
that you will adopt the
We have to do
out
the,
of order, you will adopt the resolution to amend the budget.
right,
Oh, yes, the resolution, right.
75.
275-23. Yes.
Next, resolution
Yes.
275-23. Read by title, amending the budget. I just want to read one statement, just so you have the date. The complete amendment in accordance with the provisions of NJSA 48, 4-9 be published in the South Orange Maplewood News Record, and said publication containing notice of hearing on said amendment to be held at the municipal building on September 19th, 2023 at 7:30 PM.
Thank you. I move the adoption of resolution 275-23.
Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Kripe?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes,
Ms. Engel?
Yes.
Mayor Daffis?
Yes. I'm also going to move that we extend our meeting beyond 9:30. It's almost 9:30.
second,
Ms. Adams? Yes. Ms. Kripe?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
reluctantly, yes.
Ms. Engel?
Yes.
Mayor Daffis?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. So we move on to ordinances on final passage. Item 10A.
Yes, Mayor. Item 10A, ordinance 3098-23 is an ordinance to direct the installation of stop signs on Summit Avenue at its intersection with Midland Boulevard. This ordinance will direct the installation of stop signs in both directions of Summit Avenue at its intersection with Midland Boulevard.
Ordinance 3098-23 has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. At this moment in time, we're going to open it up to the public, as this is an ordinance on final passage. Mr. Wary, do we have any members of the public who wish to comment on this ordinance?
I have one member of the public who has their hand raised. Looks like Khadijah. I'll move you over. This is for public comment on ordinance 3098-23.
I believe that's probably not the case. Well, let's find out.
Yeah,
Let's find out.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Okay, sorry, I just got a bunch of flashlights. And I wasn't trying to comment on this particular bill. I actually was waiting for the final public comment on any general area. Is it okay for me to comment now?
No, she's waiting for
No.
the final.
Okay, I'll wait for the final.
Thank you. Any other members of the public who wish to comment on ordinance 3098-23?
No one has raised their hand, Mayor.
Okay, and I see no one in person. So we will close the public hearing. Are there any remarks from the Township Committee? Seeing none, can we get a motion?
I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second. Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Cripe?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Sengel?
Yes.
Mayor Daffis?
Yes, thank you. Item 10B, ordinance 3099.
One final, ordinance 3099-23 is an ordinance prohibiting parking within 5 feet of a public or private driveway on Villa Terrace. This ordinance will prohibit parking within 5 feet of a public or private driveway on Villa Terrace.
This ordinance has also been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. We will open it up to public comment. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this?
If any members of the public are interested in speaking, please raise your hand now and we will move you over to panelists. No one has raised their hand, Mayor.
Thank you. I see no one in person as well, so we'll close the public hearing. Any remarks from the Township Committee? Seeing none, motion?
I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second. Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Sengel?
Yes.
Mayor Daffis?
Yes, thank you. Item 10C, ordinance 3100-23.
It's 3100-23 is an ordinance changing the time limit parking on Villa Terrace from 3 hours to 2 hours. This ordinance will change the time limit parking on Villa Terrace from 3 hours to 2 hours.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Are there members of the public watching us at home who wish to comment on ordinance 3100-23?
If any members of the public on Zoom are interested in speaking, please raise your hand now. No one has raised their hand, Mayor.
Thank you. And we have no one in person. We'll close the public hearing. Any members of the Township Committee? Okay, seeing none, we'll get a motion.
I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Cripe?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Sengel?
Yes.
Mayor Daffis?
Yes, moving right along. 10D, ordinance 3101-23.
Yes, Mayor, also on final ordinance 3101-23 is an ordinance to amend chapter 187 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Outdoor Dining. This ordinance will establish a fee of $150 per year for securing of an outdoor cafe license and will require the removal of all equipment used in the outdoor cafe during a declared state of emergency or at the direction of the Township Office of Emergency Management.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this ordinance 3100?
If any member of the public on Zoom is interested in speaking, please raise your hand now. No one has raised their hand, Mayor.
Thank you. We have no one in person. We'll close the public hearing. Any members of the Township Committee? Seeing none, motion?
I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Groit,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca.
Yes.
Yes.
Mayor Dacus.
Yes, and I think that concludes all the ordinances. Is that correct, Ms. Fritzen? All right, report from departments. We had a budget presentation. We're moving on to administrative reports and we'll start with Township Administration. Mr. Wary.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one report. This Friday at 1 o'clock, we will have our employee appreciation event. We will be closing town hall and we will all get together to recognize all the important work that our employees have done throughout the year. And we will also be recognizing the employees who have reached significant milestones in terms of their longevity and service here to the township. So we look forward to that. We'll be putting out a note to the public regarding that closure of our offices for that time as well. That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wary. Any questions for Mr. Wary?
Just asking on behalf of the senior population, will there be anyone answering the phones or taking messages in case there is a need?
I will speak with the clerk about what's been done in years past. I know obviously we all have voicemail and email, and we can put in the message when we put it out to the public about our closure, the ways that the residents can reach out to us in our absence.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Mayor.
Yes.
He's expressed to the employees at the picnic that I'll be out of town, but
Of course.
Yes.
I of course appreciate them all.
Of course. Any questions for Mr. Wary from my other colleagues? Mr. Wary, I have a couple questions for you. What is the status of the reval?
It is ongoing. They have given reports to the CFO and there have been no updates in terms of deviation from their schedule. So they're moving through their zones. I believe by now they're in their final zone of doing their reval. And I've talked to residents recently who are scheduling follow-up visits at their home. So I know that those are still occurring, but I can provide a more comprehensive update before the next meeting.
Great, thank you. Do you have any update by any chance about the Baker Street construction, the water line there, New Jersey?
Dude, the contractor for New Jersey American Water completed the installation of the water main about 2 weeks early, which was good for us and good for the businesses. And they finished up well in advance of school opening, which is one thing we were focusing on. We are installing curbing along Baker Street closer to the library. That's ongoing now. And then New Jersey American Water will pave, they said this fall. So we don't have an update yet, but we're working with them on scheduling that. And also obviously in consideration of the schools, coming and going, we're considering timing of that potentially night or weekend work. In the overnight hours to limit that, the impact of that.
Yeah, that would be overnight. That's curb to curb, right?
It is curb to curb. Yep.
Thank you for that. That's great news. What is the latest with the salary audit?
The
salary audit?
Yeah, so I received the salary study probably 2 weeks ago, and I shared it with the department heads for the information for their department last week. Today and tomorrow, I'm meeting with every department head to review specifically the information for their department. So are their job descriptions accurate? Are their current salaries accurate? The requirements for that position, if they're required to have specific certifications, licenses, educational experience, and then getting their feedback on what the proposed salary is from the study. Some of them have no increase. Some of them have substantial increases. So getting feedback from the department head on that as well. For any corrections that need to be made, we will share that with the company who did the audit. It'll be finalized and it'll be shared with the township committee.
And based on your initial review, are we going to have enough money to cover it? That we set
Yes,
aside?
we will have enough money to cover it. One decision to be made by the committee will be when we make the increase effective. And so we had budgeted it for the full year, or we had budgeted the amount in the full year budget, but we could consider a January 1st effective date, a July 1st effective date, or a date effective on when we pass or accept the findings of the audit and pass those resolutions. So that'll be a consideration for the committee. But yes, we will have enough money in this year's budget to fund the increases that are proposed in the study as it exists now.
Any discussion on that? Any questions about it for now?
Not right now, no.
Okay. I'm glad to see that we have enough money put aside for this. And then lastly, I'm not going to belabor the social services issues that were brought up tonight and which I brought up last time. But hopefully, administration in conjunction with health services, health department will provide us with a recommendation and proposal on how to move forward on those issues for the next TC meeting. I don't think that we're going to be able to talk about it in Health and Human Services because that's at the end of the month. How does everybody feel about that? Are we okay with that?
I'm good with
To just talk about it here at the next TC meeting? Or do you want to go to?
I think you might want to have some deeper dives outside of this
I agree.
arena.
Okay, then we'll do that at Health and Human Services.
That's the end of.
It's the fourth Wednesday of the month at 12:30, and those meetings are open to the public.
Right, so we'll do it there. By that time, I think you should have a proposal together.
Yes.
And then we'll bring it back here in October.
Okay. Very
Okay.
good.
Thank you for your report.
Can I ask a clarifying question about your
course.
question about Baker Street? So with the middle school starting school on Thursday, is there anything, the Baker Street's open, all middle
Right. Yep.
school family?
It's completely open. The only thing left to be done is paving.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, and speaking of school opening, there were some emails that came in while I was away that I was monitoring relating to our crossing guard assignments. The school district was asking about them. And I never saw confirmation on the Maplewood side that we provided them the information they were seeking. Have we?
I discussed it with the chief about the response that he was going to provide. I will follow up with him to ensure that it was provided. And I know the majority of the information or I shouldn't say the majority, the most recent information we have is from the school district. They had done an audit of all the school guard postings to make sure that they were adequate for the number of crossings. That was an Excel sheet that they had shared with us for our police department to review and confirm that it was accurate. So the majority of our response will be pointing them to that information because it's the most recent and up to date. But I will ensure that the chief has provided that response.
Yeah, there were a couple of crossings in particular where we were incomplete, but otherwise, I think you're right.
Yeah.
So
I think just to clarify, I think the document the school district gave was when they were doing their safe hazardous routes. So they wanted to make sure they knew for that report, but I'm not sure if their report changed anything with the assignments that we're doing.
it didn't.
But no, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I've had people asking me as well. People are nervous about crossing, I know Prospect Street to get to Maplewood Middle, because I know some Curtis and busing disappeared. So if we can get that posted tomorrow so that families know before they go to school on Thursday.
on Thursday. Yeah.
Sure. And share with the school districts as well in hopes that they post it. Sure.
Okay, great. So you're not in the hot seat anymore. We're going to move over to Mr. Desiderio, Township Attorney. Welcome.
Mayor, the only thing I'll report on is in the fourth discussion item, the update with regard to the redevelopment on Springfield Avenue. So I circulated information to the Township Committee today, and we'll discuss that. You have it listed for Mr. Weary, but I think I'm the one who'll probably be discussing that.
I didn't catch all of that. I'm sorry.
It's gonna come up in the
Okay, thank you.
item number 4. That's all we need to know.
Okay, moving on then. Township Clerk Fritzen.
Thank you, Mayor. So I wanted to report, first, any explanation that you might need for the 12 resolutions on the consent agenda regarding the liquor cabinet. And basically, we're trying to help the liquor cabinet so that they can bring their license from 2014 to the present. The license wasn't in compliance with state regulations due to late payments or non-payments. And they have approached the township and approached Mayor Daffis directly for us to help, even though we had been assisting them for years. They just didn't make their payments. So we've been working with the state, and in order to get all the necessary payments and information so that they could get into compliance to sell the license, to make the license saleable. It is not, currently, because there were so many non-payments against them, and they are looking to unload the license, which would bring a plenary retail distribution license back into our township. And it's not a lot of money, but the annual fee is $1,938. So that's money. And it also could become a viable business again, if they could sell it. That is my explanation. And I had already sent an email explaining it. So any questions?
No, but thank you for that. We're essentially helping them reactivate this pocket license.
Yeah.
From so many years ago. And thank you for your efforts. I know that. Yeah,
It could be
Right.
maybe a larger location.
right. Any other
Um,
reports?
Excuse me?
Any other reports, Ms. Fritzen?
Yes, Mayor, you had asked me to give a quick report on parking permits.
Parking permits. I get a lot of emails about that. Yes, please.
Okay, so for parking permits for 2023, we're progressive now, and we got away from stickers. And we went to entering plate numbers on a database. And overall, with the number of residents that have commuter parking or commuter and jitney as a combo, we don't have that many issues, but we try to help residents that maybe didn't write the plate number correctly on the form. And then we go and enter it, and then it's not a match to their plate, or sometimes it's it could be misread by enforcement. So my answer is we always try to work with people that get ticketed and try to fix the situation.
Thank you.
And I think that I would report real quick, this is the attorney here from Winchester Gardens, that a discussion item a little later in the agenda is about the club liquor license. So, I mean, when we get to that portion, I would be happy to give you a review of how we had discussed this roughly 8 months ago.
We did.
And yeah, we have had a lot of event planning meetings again, and we're gonna have a wrap-up meeting for Maple Woodstock at the end of the month.
Great. Thank you. And we're about to get to that discussion item. We thank you for your patience. It's a pleasure having you here in person. Thank you for making the effort. Okay. Any questions for our clerk? Thank you for your fulsome report. We will move over to reports from elected officials, and we'll start with Committee Member Adams.
No report, Mayor. Welcome.
Any questions for Committee Member Adams?
No.
All right. Committee Member DeLuca.
No report.
Any questions for Committee Member DeLuca? All right. Committee Member Cripe.
One thing to note, this is the beginning of school, Thursday. Slow down, leave early. That's it.
I love that. Slow down, leave early. And thank you, Committee Member Cripe. Any questions for Committee Member Cripe? Deputy Mayor Engel.
I do have a report, because I missed the August 1st meeting.
Okay.
So I wanted to just report on the Greenway in July. Myself and Mr. Kittner and Mr. Wary and our assistant engineer and a member of the school board and some folks from South Orange toured the potential Greenway.
Your colleague sitting next to you.
My colleague, Mayor Daffis. Yes, sorry about that. So this was a project that came up many years ago about a proposed greenway to connect Maplewood and South Orange along the river. And South Orange had gotten funding for it and are building it. And so we're looking back into whether Maplewood would be able to do it as well. There's some land questions that the school district owns. So maybe Isabel Wilson and I are trying to untangle it all and figure out if this is something we can move forward with. The Environmental Advisory Committee has a subcommittee working on it. So if it is a possible project, then we would go out and look to see how we would fund it, but it's just preliminary. I'm figuring it out. For Maplewood Village Alliance, I wanted to once again congratulate them on the Baker Street ice cream cone benches. They reported that you were a big help on that, Mayor, so thank you very much. And I also wanted to mention that Kat Zillette is leaving as executive director. Gotten many qualified resumes coming in. The president, Amy Howlett, is doing initial interviews. So more to come on that, but Kat Zillette has done an amazing job, so we're sad to see her go. More amazing news. Summer is wrapped up, and I just wanted to thank our entire community services and rec department and pool staff for an amazing summer. We had so many camps. My kids participated in them, so I know how amazing they were. The pool was just fantastic all summer. Monday, we reached capacity on a heat wave on Labor Day, and it was just a really fun summer. So just great job to Melissa Mancuso, our director, on all our staff, Nick, Jamie, Sally, all the counselors and lifeguards. It was really a fantastic summer. And as Ms. Cricht mentioned, school starts on Thursday. So I know all the parents like me are very excited to have their kids go back to school finally. Back to work. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any questions for Deputy Mayor Engel? Nice report. I'll follow up on that. I have no report after returning from a much needed vacation for a couple of weeks out of the country. Getting right back into it, reentry is always very difficult. I want to wish all of our students out there a great academic year coming forth. I want to wish the parents as well best wishes. And I want to also thank our community services department, not just for an amazing pool season, but also for all of their support in the arts. We had an amazing weekend of music with Porch Fest and Soma Stage. I could not believe
Yeah,
the response at Soma Stage.
Standing room
was
only in
crazy.
Memorial Park.
It was
Crazy.
I mean, even though it was like 92 degrees outside.
Everyone had a chair.
Yeah, so I mean, that just shows you how much hunger and interest there is for the arts and for music, live performance in our community, and that's a wonderful thing. So there's also one thing I want to say to my colleagues. I want to welcome them back from a little bit of a break. I hope you all had a little bit of rest and enjoyed summer. Summer's not over officially. I'm holding on to summer, right? Mr. DeLuca, you're holding on to summer too. But you know, the time has come to get serious. We have a lot of work to do over the course of the next 4 months before we close out this year. We're going to start on our budget again, our 2024 budget. And we need to really think about what investments we're going to make. I think that we need to look at our climate change resiliency. We need to look at our continued and expanded infrastructure improvements and social services support in ways that we've never done before. These are the things that keep coming up. These are the things that people are talking about. These are the things that people are concerned about. So let's get to work. We have a lot to do. Discussion items. 14A is the supporting the issuance of a club license for Winchester Gardens Social Club at 333 Elmwood Avenue. And our township clerk teed this up for us. This is something that we did discuss as a governing body earlier this year. We are in favor of their having a club license, and they just hadn't gotten around to doing the paperwork. Is that right, Ms. Fritzen? Until recently. Do you want to follow up on that?
Yes, that's correct, Mayor. They have submitted to me their application. They have also satisfied the 2 newspaper publications in August. They did it. So the next step, for the township would be if you would consider, we do have to hold a hearing before the license would be issued. And as you all know, we did always have 2 club licenses in the township, and the VFW license ceased to operate. So we do have room.
Wonderful. And welcome. And again, thank you for your patience. Please introduce yourself.
Of course. Good evening, committee members. My name is Bisola Taiwo. I'm an attorney from Gibbons PC, and I'm representing Marcus L. Ward Home, known as Winchester Gardens, right here in Maplewood. And to fast forward to the reason why we're here, since it appears that committee members are already aware of this application, have spoken favorably about it. The reason we're here is because the application, before it can move forward, we need to obtain a waiver from the state on 2 points. Social club licenses require that the social club have been in existence at least 3 years immediately prior to the filing of the application. It also requires the same existence in the number of years for the clubhouse that's going to be used by the social club. Now, this social club is just being set up, and it's being set up for the retirement community members who reside in Winchester Gardens. And so we've asked the state for that waiver. In response, they asked that we come back to you and ask for your support, and also speak about it in a public hearing such as this, so that the public, members of the public can have an opportunity to discuss it, voice an objection if they have one. And so what we're asking of you is to either adopt a resolution or send us a letter of support, essentially saying that you do support the application and that members of the public have been given an opportunity to object and have no such objections. And so that's why we're here. Once we get that letter or resolution from you, we submit that to the state, they give us the waiver, and that allows us to come back to you
To move
ask for an
forward.
actual
Right.
license.
I see. Well, first of all, thank you for knowing how to use the mic. You're the only person I heard clearly tonight, and maybe I have a hearing issue and I need to listen to my husband who keeps telling me I need a hearing aid. Maybe I do. Tonight is proving that true, possibly. So thank you for knowing how to use the mic, and it's no accident that you work at Gibbons, because look, hello. Thank you. So what is the right course of action? Do we do a resolution, Mr. Desiderio? What do we do?
We have, well, based on what council has said, which certainly I'm sure is correct, we need to notice a hearing. Because we haven't done that. I mean, this is on as a discussion item, but it's not really listed as a hearing, so members of the public can offer it. So I guess it would have to be an ABC hearing at whatever meeting you direct, similar to when we have a license hearing. And it would be if there's any objection, okay, to the town supporting the application for the waiver submitted by them. If I understand you correctly, once you get the waiver, you still have a waiting period before this is going to go into effect, right? 3 years?
Well, no, once we get the waiver, sorry, speak back into the mic. Once we get the waiver, then we can start the application process in the ordinary course, which would then, involve what you just discussed, where we would have to publish notices, give the public a chance to review the application if they want to. But for now, all we need is a resolution of support, just stating in general that you're not objecting to the application. We don't need a hearing at this point. Not yet.
I misunderstood you. I thought you said that the letter had to suggest that the town had held a hearing and that there was no objection from the public.
No, that language. So it's about either today you issue a resolution, or we've had the conversation, members of the public can write to the clerk's office if they have any objections. If they don't, you can issue a resolution of support or a letter in your next.
Then I would suggest, sorry.
I understood that it was.
I would suggest we do it the way I suggested, Mayor, and that is have it listed for a hearing at whatever meeting you suggest. Let the public know and give the public an opportunity to respond. And then you should pass a resolution one way or another.
So just Just to be clear, the only thing we're having a hearing about is whether or not we object to the waiver.
Correct. This would be a resolution or a letter, probably a resolution will be in support of the application for the waiver.
They can use for the waiver.
Right. So I want to just check in with my colleagues. How do we feel about this?
I'm very much in favor. I'm looking at the average age of the members in the social club, and everyone is over 21.
Yes.
By far.
Most of them also don't drive, so.
I think we should support the waiver, and I think we should put it on for next meeting. Let the public say what they want to say, and we can vote in favor of the waiver or not.
Yeah.
Do it that way? Okay.
Right.
All right, Ms. Fritzen, if you'll put it on next meeting.
I just want to make sure, does everyone feel the same way?
Yes, good.
Yes. Ms. Adams? Okay, and Ms. Kreitz?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Mayor, is there a time frame? How much notice that we have to give the public? I mean, if you're I'm only thinking by the time we get it in the newspaper, and I guess I'm gonna write the public notice for the hearing, that we normally give 30 days. We don't just jump to the next township committee meeting. 30 days so that we could properly notice. And I'm wondering if there's any kind of requirement for the property owners that are within 200 feet of Winchester
I don't think
Gardens.
we need to do that, Ms. Fritzen. I think it's just a general notice to the public with regard to it.
Okay.
Council will check on the notice requirements and she'll let us know.
Right.
Okay, and then we'll advise you. If we can do it at the next meeting, we'll do it at the next
Yeah.
meeting. If we have a notice requirement problem, we'll advise you of that.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there anything else you wanted to proffer? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure having you.
Well, just to clarify, because I think we would just be passing a resolution supporting the waiver. And then the hearing for the license would be another time if their waiver is approved by the.
Correct.
So we don't need that 30-day notice for the
Correct.
hearing.
And that was what was presented. Yes. There's a part A and there's a part B. All right, thank you. We're going to move over to 14B, parks. And this is about synchronizing the closing of playgrounds, courts, skate park, and fields in all parks. This discussion item is being led by Committee Member DeLuca.
Thank you, Mayor. It was brought to our attention that there are some differences in park openings and closings. And when I took a look at the ordinance, the code, it was clear that there are some differences, and as we heard tonight, there's some suggestions that we make them equal around town, and also that we don't even include playgrounds as a closure. So essentially, playgrounds can be open like in Gehart till 10:30 at night.
You just said it publicly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also where people are.
Let's go over there. You still get an hour.
Well, that is also where people are congregating into Hart.
Yeah, I think, some of the things we're talking about. So essentially, what I sent you and proposed is that in all of our parks, playgrounds would be closed at sunset, which is our definition. In Gehart, right now, we say that courts can be open till 10:30, and we don't have lighting.
It's dangerous.
They need to close at sunset.
Yes.
The field should also be closed at sunset unless the Recreation Department or Department of Community Services gives a permit for the artificial lighting. And then that should go till, now I had 10 o'clock, but
The game
Ms.
ends.
Mancuso suggested 10:30 because we do have a couple of games that go until 10, a little after 10, and then by the time they get going, it's around 10:30. The lights go off at 10:30. So that would be in Gehart specifically, it would say the hours for use of the playground and courts shall be from 8 a.m. to sunset, and the hours for the use of the fields shall be from 8 a.m. to sunset and to 10 p.m. with artificial lighting. And it says artificial lighting is available for those users who receive a permit. In Maple Crest, we don't say anything about the skateboard park and the skateboard park.
Can I
Yeah.
interrupt you? Did you specifically intend to skip courts on D Hart? You said playground. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
courts
fields?
are, no, playgrounds and courts are closed at sunset.
Okay, so fields and courts shall be.
Yeah, let's not, we'll work on this later. Yeah.
Okay.
We don't even mention skateboard park at Maple Crest. We don't have lighting there right now, so we ought to close that at sunset. And then in Memorial Park, this is interesting because we now say that tennis courts and basketball courts should close at sunset, but we did put lighting in there, and Department of Community Services keeps lighting open until 9 p.m. So there are already lights there till 9 p.m. So it contradicts the ordinance.
Are there lessons or things
No,
going
it's
during
just
that time
people
period?
play pickup.
Okay.
But you put that suggestion of artificial lighting. So.
Yeah, but it's not
only
done
the
with
heart.
artificial lighting. It's on
They're on.
because people play pickup at night. They don't have to get a permit from the rec.
Oh.
Okay.
I'm sorry, so they can do that in Memorial Park, but not in DeHart Park where
There's
there's,
no
There's
lights,
no lighting in DeHart.
no lights in DeHart.
There's
Lights
in the
in,
field.
there's lights. Where there's lights, then they can be open at night. So what Ms. Mancuso said is that they have tennis and basketball courts that are set to go until 9 p.m. And when they do their own programming, that gets obviously the court time, but it's also when residents want to drop in for tennis and basketball, they can play till 9 o'clock. So we can decide, and what we can do is we can do another set of this and send it around before we put it up for consideration. But we can decide whether we want to have the same situation where if you want to use the lights, then you have to go to Department of Community Services, or as they are now, they're on until 9 o'clock. Sorry.
And just to be clear, they're on till 9 o'clock, but that's not in our ordinance.
That's correct.
Right.
Right.
They just left on.
So,
Our ordinance is inconsistent with the reality.
right.
I'm just thinking about sunset in the winter is like at 4:30 p.m., 5 p.m. And I'm just thinking about some of our tweens and teens who may still be out. I mean, I understand when it gets dark, it's not necessarily safe to be in our parks or public spaces. I'm just trying to wonder, like, what are our tweens and teens going to be doing safely after school?
They should be home.
Their homework.
Yeah, hopefully they're.
Like, I
Yeah.
know, I'm a parent and I'm just thinking like, okay, so my kid doesn't even get home until like 4:30.
Yeah. But also with the temperature drop and various things, there's not going to be a whole lot of playing outside.
So is it when the sun sets or is it when it's dark and there's?
No, sunset.
Sunset? When it's just
Sunset.
totally dark. That's more like 5 something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
something I would think about and what's lit where and just.
Yeah, but I don't
more
think you want, I had 5 kids grow up here and I wouldn't want them hanging out in the park after
Yeah.
dark. So it wasn't really a problem. I don't think it's ever been a problem.
And there's also available spaces like YouthNet has the
Right.
gym, MMS, they do things. So there's other
We're down in
places
the village.
indoors.
Sliding.
Right, but a lot of people can't get to the village necessarily by where they're living safely either. So I'm.
No, I know,
I
but
don't, I think for liability, you can't have a basketball
Yeah,
court open
when
at
it's
night
dark.
when there's no lights because somebody's gonna get hurt.
Yep.
Yeah.
And or the playground, somebody's gonna get hit with a swing that.
Yeah, no, I understand the
So-
safety.
And
of
nobody's
it.
gonna be, well, I don't know, if they're hanging out in the park. I think that's the reason we have hours of closure of the park. And we
Right.
dealt with this issue with regard to commuters, that
Yeah.
they're technically shouldn't be going through the park, but the police are aware that if they're commuting and they're walking through the park, that's not exactly hanging out in the park.
Right.
So the park is closed after dark and
Well, Memorial Park is open from 5 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. It's just that the courts,
the courts and the.
That's what we're talking about.
The
Yeah.
playground.
was closed at sunset. So
Right.
you could walk through.
Yeah, they
Memorial
can walk on the paths.
So Committee Member DeLuca, you want to summarize
Just
your?
The thing is that we just have to work on Walter and then we have to change the Department Director of Recreation, Director of Community Service. So I will do another set of this based on some comments that Ms. Mancuso gave us. And then we'll have it up for another discussion item.
Do we generally support the sunset? So it's equitable and uniform.
Yes, and it allows for law enforcement to be able to go through and police the
Right.
park as the neighbors obviously have commented in our public, our public
Yeah,
comment.
See how it works out, we hear otherwise.
Years ago, they had, before I was here, Vic, you may have been on the TC, they had issues with the basketball courts across the street on Valley Street for being too loud and people being there till 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
So they close at sunset unless there's organized activity and
Yeah.
lights are on.
And I don't think a parent will be too terribly upset about that.
Yeah.
It's a safety issue. And on a school night,
Okay.
they should be home.
So I will circulate another set of this.
Right. Thank you, Mr. DeLuca. We'll move over to the next item, code changes, claims and payment, and that's being led by Administrator Wary. You want to give some context on
Yes.
this so people understand
Thank you. So
what the ordinance says, what it
Yeah,
was
so-
intended to do and what actually happens?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
first I'll start with what the system is designed for. So we have a purchasing system in Maplewood, like every municipality, and it's governed by our code, chapter 17, which is claims approval and payment. In how the process works currently, a department head needs to make a purchase. It's put in by somebody in there. They put in a requisition into our system. It encumbers the money out of our budget line. That then goes to approval for the department head. Once the department head approves it, it goes to our purchasing agent for approval. Then it goes to me for approval. Once I finish approvals, finance department prints the PO. The CFO physically signs off every PO with wet ink, saying that it is actually a purchase order because a PO is a legal contract. And so he signs it, goes out to the vendor. They produce the good or service. Once they do that, they sign the claimant certification saying that they have produced that. It comes back, that purchase order comes back to us. It goes to the department. The department head signs off that it's been received, right? So it's a long process, but it's a good process and that all those checks are necessary. Once the department head signs off that it's been received, it gets put on a bill list for consideration by the TC as a whole. You approve them at every meeting. When that's done, when it's been put on the bill list, it then comes to me for signature. Again, I've already approved the purchase before it's made, and the department head has already approved that the good or service has been produced. Then it comes back to me for signature again, as required by the code. My review at that point is generally nothing more than to sign it. I'll
Right.
keep an eye out to make sure there's nothing on a township wide level that would concern me, like that vendor's been put on hold for a specific reason. But I'm required to sign it by code. Then it goes to the chair of the finance committee for another wet signature. So you end up sorting through, as you know, stacks of purchase orders before every meeting this big. It's a long process that's often delayed because of the complexity of it. So oftentimes the finance chair isn't signing it until after it's already been approved by the township committee, just by a nature of the timeline, rarely matching up. So the request of the township committee is to make amendments to our code to reflect both is what's happening now, but also to remove the requirement for myself and for the finance chair to sign the purchase orders after the purchase has already been made. The TC and the administrator and the finance chair all still have an opportunity to review the bill list before it's approved by the township committee. And we all have an opportunity to make any specific objections to any line item payment, but we wouldn't have to go through every single piece of paper and sign it in wet ink. So that I've mocked up and shared with you what those changes would look like to our code. And I'd ask for you to consider that.
Any discussion? I mean, I know why it was put this way, but at this point, that second signature after these things have been paid already is really redundant. I mean, I review these things and I do get them in like bags all at once, like hundreds of them. It's a great thing to be able to review, our spending, right? Again, we've already approved this first level, right? But I write notes in there and I'm wasting my time. I'm like, why are we using the local supermarket for this senior picnic? Or wow, we spent this much on this, or why are all these security deposits for the heart being returned? I
Mhm.
never get an answer.
Right.
I mean, they've been paid already.
Right. And I think that that review is important, but it can still be done by reviewing the bill list.
Correct.
It's not necessary to review every single piece of paper in the PO and
Right.
put a wet ink signature on it.
Right. And worst of all, there's no carbon paper. And so you literally have to sign every single one.
Yeah, and I think we would like to move to a system of less paper in our purchase order system. You know, we right now, once the requisition is converted to a purchase order, we print out in triplicate carbon copy of purchase orders. Copies go out to the department, copies stay in finance, copies go to the vendor. These are hard copy mailings, folded, stuffed in envelopes, mail put on them. There's no reason for this. The system we use, which I referenced earlier, talking about the budget, Edmunds has a program where you can just put in the email address of the vendor, and as soon as you hit generate PO, instead of printing it on a printer, it's sending it out via email. A copy goes out via email to the vendor, copy goes out via email to the department head. We still have adequate means of tracking that purchase order in the system.
Yeah, we talked about this at length at code, and the code committee agreed with your recommendation.
Yeah, I support it.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Any discussion?
Oh, no, having signed hundreds of these, I absolutely agree.
Thank you.
Thousands of them.
All right. So
Okay, that
we'll
was
bring it
easy.
back at next meeting.
Yeah.
As an ordinance. All right.
Wonderful. And this brings us to 14D, the Springfield Avenue redevelopment project. I didn't hear what you said before, so you got to say it. Yeah.
You shut it off.
We have communicated with Mr. Greigel, who is our planner, with regard to the expansion of redevelopment area 3 to include the property at, I think it's 8 Vermont. I circulated to you what his initial appraisal was. I spoke to redevelopment council today. She's going to prepare a resolution with regard to entering into an escrow agreement with regard to costs associated with this. At that point, we will do a resolution. Mr. Greigel's estimate is about $2,500. It's not a great deal of money with regard to this amendment. And at that point, we will have Mr. Greigel start to do that and come back to us to see if in fact that property does qualify to be included in that redevelopment zone. So everything is going to go forward. We should have some resolutions on for the next meeting, and it is moving forward.
Right. So the report that our planner forwarded to us, that you forwarded to us, it ends with a paragraph that summarizes his findings, right? About 8 Vermont.
Yes,
that
it has
particular
a
right?
conclusion to it. Yes.
Right. And he says that the property upon his initial inspection, which was all external, may not qualify on its own, but it may qualify as part of this redevelopment work.
Let's hope that's not the case, because redevelopment council is really not that enthusiastic about that option. So let Mr. Greigel should do his study, and hopefully it'll qualify under the criteria in the statute that is other than that criteria. If necessary, we'll go to it, but she would prefer that we look and see if it qualifies otherwise.
Got it. Any questions?
I think the other thing that Mr. Greigel mentions here is that it appears that this is a transitional lot.
Okay.
And as a transitional lot, a multifamily home is a conditional use. So as we think about, that's what we're looking to achieve already by the code, a multiple family unit is permitted on this lot if it is deemed a conditional lot, and it seems that that's what it is. So I think that's important just to get the message out that it's already permitted under some conditions.
Yeah, I don't, in speaking to Mr. Greigel, I don't anticipate there's going to be an issue, especially in light of the fact that the homeowner is agreeable. if not under contract. The property may have been sold to the developer, I'm not sure. But we have to go through the, dot the i's and cross the t's. And this is the process, so.
So the next step is what?
I'm sorry.
The next step is what?
That step is that at the next meeting, we'll have a resolution with regard to the escrow agreement and with regard to Mr. Greigel.
Great. Anything else from anyone? Thank you. Consent agenda. Thank you again, Ms. Fritzen, for explaining what all these are. I move the adoption of the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Sprite,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Sengel,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes. And this brings us to our second public
I'm
comment.
sorry, can I just ask, Mr. Weary, on 15X, do you know why we're rejecting the bids for the tree planting?
Came in too high, right?
For the what?
Tree planting.
Oh.
Tree planting.
We're too high.
I do not know personally, but I understand from the clerk that it's too high. She was there at the bid opening.
You were there, right? They came in too high, you said, right?
Well, I guess we'll talk.
We have options. So yeah, generally we would put that out to bid again. We will look at the bid and determine why it was high and if we need to make adjustments to bring it into what our budget is.
So it's for purchase and installation.
That's correct, yeah. And we can put it out again. If they come in again too high, that gives us an opportunity to directly negotiate. So there are some, there's leverage from, continuing to go out to bid.
Do you please ask the Director of Public Works to also look into where Public Works could plant? That would be easy enough because that's something we've been talking about for several years, is trying to bring it back to more in-house planting so that we're not paying for labor, but we're
No.
just getting, that way we can pay for more trees,
Sure.
less labor.
Sure.
So if he can look into that, maybe there's opportunity to reduce the bid by doing some of it ourselves, just buying product.
Yes. Okay.
Especially for Maple Memorial Park. I know there's volunteers there that'll help plant, or unless these are all street trees.
And let's say the last part.
Are they all street trees you're talking
I
about?
think it's a combination.
These are a combination, yes.
So look into Maple Crest and Memorial Parks as to getting volunteers to do some planning along with DPW. And then I think Deborah Lyons, chair of the Conservancy, recommended a specific vendor who did a really excellent job planting 50 trees in Memorial Park last year.
Okay.
I think she emailed that to you. I think I saw that in an email, so double check that and I'll do the same.
Okay.
So just as I'm a little confused because we did something new with this year. We put out a number, so we had $20,000 to plant trees. So I'm not sure how it came in high. Was there
We asked the bidders to provide line item prices for everything that we wanted installed.
right?
And each one of them had a lump sum total. So it's not that we said, we have X amount of dollars, how many trees can you plant?
That's what we were told. It's how we were going out to bid.
Okay,
That's how we were told that we were doing that we put it out that we had X amount of dollars. This is what we were told.
Like
I understand.
$75,000.
Yeah, whatever the number was.
Yeah.
And that this was a test to see if we could get a vendor to come in and do it all based on a number that we would give out.
okay. I will follow up with
Okay,
engineering and give you a report tomorrow.
okay. So if they came in too high, then what Ms. Adams is saying is what we ought to do is start mobilizing now, because if we don't start mobilizing now, we're going to lose the planting season.
Mhm.
And I'm concerned even waiting the next couple of weeks or a week or so until engineering and public works.
Yeah.
At engineering and public works, we want to plan as to how we're going to move forward with this, because we need to get these trees in.
We also
Yes,
need a
sure.
plan for where the trees are going to go. Unlike Memorial Park, there's actually no plan for Maple Crest Park. So we would need that. So people aren't just going out there digging holes.
I will provide a written update to the Township Committee tomorrow.
Right, but we need the plan for next Wednesday morning for engineering and planning. Yeah. Public Works. Okay, any other questions for the consent agenda? All right, adopted. Did we do a roll call?
We did not.
Oh, excuse me. Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Sprite?
Yes.
Luca?
Yes.
Sangle?
Yes.
Mayor Dap?
Yes. Public comment number 2, any subject matter, even though people did that, the first public comment, all good,
I
flexible.
believe we have,
Do we have any members of the public?
well, we had Miss White.
Khadijah
was-
was there, right?
Oh, yes.
Khadijah's still there.
We have Dr. White, us, right?
We have one member of the public with their hand raised. I'll move them over to panelists now.
It's possible to turn on their camera because it's easier to hear them when we can see them.
Yes. Read lips.
Yeah, exactly. I was reading, I was
Oh,
reading.
yes. Yeah, and that's what we have been doing when they have a camera. So Khadijah is now in public portion. You have 3 minutes to speak. She does not have video. So
Okay.
we won't put it on.
Hi, I'm sorry I'm not on video. I have taken my hair down officially for the night, and so none of you want to see what's going on over here. But next time, I hope to be at the TC meeting with you, and you all can see me face to face. I just had 2 quick things. One, I just wanted to say I listened to the discussion about the DeHart Park or the park closings. I am hoping that you all, I know, of course, obviously Vic and committee member DeLuca and community member Craig live here. But I hope we keep having conversations because I think there are some parents who, a lot of us are commuter parents. We get home sometimes around 5, 6 o'clock at night, but we might want to play basketball with our kids or walk down to the park or the playground real quick with littles. I have 3 kids, 6 and under. So I just hope that you all kind of take that, especially if the issue is lighting. If the issue is lighting, then maybe we can raise money for lights to be at the park, at the basketball court, or anything else to keep it open. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. But part of the reason I actually waited to talk to you all was just about the community fridge and pantry. I just wanted to thank you all for making this possible, for supporting the community fridge and pantry. I was able to go down there because I've heard all the stuff online. I was able to go down and talk to people and kind of just hang out around the fridge, talk to a business owner who online had kind of invited me to come and talk to her because she was really concerned about the community pantry and fridge. And I think we had a really good conversation. I think that the UCC support has made a big difference, and she said that as a business owner. But I also just wanted you all to know that it is such a vibrant, much needed, perfectly placed sharing space. I saw local workers stop by and get a quick cold drink. I saw seniors who look like local seniors come by the fridge to get extra food help. And I think and not just like the kinds of people that people picture, right? Like a wide swath of local folks. So I just wanted to let you know, I hope that you consider making an official committee for the fridge and pantry. I think there are a lot of people who really care about it and would love to help you. And I basically just wanted to show up because I know a lot of times online you hear really negative, terrible voices who are really critical of the kinds of stuff that you all are doing to make our community better. And I wanted you to know that I'm hearing so much of the opposite. And you in this community fridge and pantry are really saving lives. I know that you cut the time down, and I hope that you reconsider that. Right now, you can park on the streets of Maplewood longer than you can get food. And so I really hope that you change that. There are people, particularly in my neighborhood, who have dropped food off at 5 a.m. or, picked up things late at night where people can't see them because some people are kind of ashamed, as you might imagine. So I really hope you all really think about opening the fridge for longer, returning it. I know that you said it was temporary, this shortened time period that you cut it kind of in half. So I hope you change that very soon. There's a lot of need right now, and I know people can use the help. So both of those things, a big thank you and kind of a request. And hopefully there'll be more of us. I know with school happening, a lot of people are busy. Hopefully there are more people who can kind of come and tell you how important the pantry is in the next coming months. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. White. Appreciate it. Are there other members of the public?
Yes, Mayor, there's one other member of the public with their hand raised. I'll promote them to panelists now. Okay, Amy, please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes to speak. Amy, you are muted. If you would unmute yourself, you have 3
Oh,
minutes.
sorry about that. So I just wanted to remind the town council that based on the number of petitions that were signed, most people in the area do agree that D Hart Park fields and courts should close at sunset. Whatever time that may be, depending upon, when they change the daylight savings. So I just wanted to remind you of that, and I hope that you support this effort so that we can restore peace and tranquility once again to our neighborhood. Thank you very much. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to tell you that there were many people that had joined on Zoom, but they did not speak because, they didn't want to speak, but they were here in support.
Just to be clear, the proposal is that the field will close at sunset unless the recreation department gives a permit for the use of the lights, and then it'll be till 10:30.
That is correct. The soccer field area, that is correct.
That's the proposal, that the field will close at sunset unless whoever's using it gets a permit
for it.
from the
Correct.
recreation. Okay.
Correct.
Right. You're saying correct to us. We're saying correct to you. This is funny. All right. Well, thank you again for your comments tonight and your insight. Are there
You're
other
welcome.
If any other member of the public would like to speak, please raise your hand on Zoom and we'll promote you to panelists. No one has raised their hand, Mayor.
Okay, seeing no one, we're going to close the public comment portion, the second and only left. And I will move that we adjourn and meet again on Tuesday, September 19th.
Second.
Yes.
Adjourn.
Yes.
Scripe,
Yes.
DeLuca.
Yes.
Zangle.
Yes.
Mayor Dacus.
Yes, good night, everyone. Thank you.
So back home.